All right, let's take you to Oregon now, where armed protesters have taken over the headquarters of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge.
Some protesters blame the Harney County Sheriff for not protecting the residents from the federal government.
The militia say they're not ruling out violence if police try to remove them from the federal premises.
You know, they say that there was an armed standoff in Harney County. That is a total lie.
Militia groups from out of state came to show support for 2 Oregon ranchers who must go back to prison for starting fires that burned on federal land.
What Dwight and Steve did isn't in the same category as arson.
I don't know how you could put a charge like terrorism and compare that to ranch life in Eastern Oregon.
They flat out told me, you tell the federal government these people are not going back to prison, or we're going to bring thousands of people to town and do that for you.
There becomes a time when people are ignored. They see an injustice, but all levels of government are ignoring that.
People started approaching me going, hey, Emma's going out the refuge. He says he's going to take it over.
You cannot go to war against the federal government. This is not 240 years ago.
If the FBI did come here, nobody would be leaving alive.
Call me an occupier, call me a terrorist, I don't care. I am here for Dwight Hammond, and they had better get out of that prison.
The overall majority of this movement is peaceful, but there are extremely dangerous threads which, when the time comes, will yield towards confrontation as opposed to reason.
Good morning. That was the trailer from the documentary, now available on Netflix from the Audience Network. I've seen this documentary a few times, and every time I learn something new. I believe it's objective. I think it looks at both sides. By the way, good morning. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller in the morning. Few issues we're talking about, some we haven't even gotten to, concerning the teacher, the snapping turtle, the puppy, and his plea in eastern Idaho. We'll get to that. We'll also take more of your phone calls on the Supreme Court. But the Hammonds getting pardoned, that is getting a lot of attention, not only in Oregon, and thanks to Congressman Walden for making that happen, and the president particularly for making that happen, but the viciousness of the federal prosecutor who decided that the Hammonds would have to stay in prison, and he wanted to make sure that everybody knew he was bitter that the president pardoned him. Talk about lack of respect for the office of the presidency. The imperial presidency under Barack Obama, where dissent was squashed, here you want to make yourself a big star on YouTube or Netflix, just attack the president of the United States. The Hammonds never should have been in prison. We talked about this ad nauseum. Thankfully, they're being released. But what about the years they lost on their lives serving in the prison? Tough call. We will take your calls on this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, this, you don't have to have DirecTV for this. You can get American Standoff on YouTube. I see the entire documentary here. It is one of the more powerful documentaries that you can watch, particularly about our life here in the West. Let's go to the phones. We go to Liberty Linda, who joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda. Hello, Liberty Linda.
You know, when you yesterday announced at the end of your show about our president and that he was going to pardon the Hammonds, I just couldn't believe it. Everything that our president is doing today, he's so involved in the world, going across to all these different nations, talking to all these dignitaries. And in the midst of this, he remembers the Hammonds and that he pardoned them. I just couldn't believe it. What a man he is. I think he is the greatest president we've ever had. It just touched my heart so much. And, you know, all the work you did, going out and seeing the Bundys, going to the Hammonds, you had such knowledge about this. You're the one that got this out to the news first and foremost. And I was just overwhelmed yesterday. You know, I'm overwhelmed with our president. And I have to tell you, even with the new knowledge that I have about our government, yesterday when Brett Kavanaugh walked out with his family, my heart was just touched. What a lovely family they are. And so I have decided to change my opinion and support the Kavanaugh and support our president's pick as a justice for our Supreme Court. I do support him and his family. I think he will be a wonderful justice, and I just want to let you know that this new knowledge I have, it's not going to make a difference. So I am supporting him.
Well, that's good to hear. You know, I was a little worried yesterday when you wanted to cede your time to Tom Munns.
Well, Tom Munns and I were texting back and forth as well.
Oh.
And,
well, I had to remind you, this isn't the Parliament.
Anyway, no, I do. I really have that feeling in my heart. And so what I was thinking yesterday, I really, really thought about this a lot. And it's not going to make a difference, this new knowledge I have, which I will share with you someday. But I do think he is a good pick. You know, I think Mike Lee is good where he is.
Right.
He will be good for our country where he is. And so I think it's all going to work out wonderful, and I support him. And so I'm really, really very happy this morning. And for the Hammonds, you know, these poor ranchers that were just building a backfire, doing the things that just any rancher would do that they're supposed to do. And our president stopped to think of them. You know, and that was a long time ago, actually, when you think about it.
Liberty Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. You're the one. You do all the work. Like I said the other day, you keep us centered, and you keep us with the knowledge that we need to know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Tom Munns joins us. TomMunns.com, Munns Tom Twitter from Parts Unknown. Good morning, sir.
Parts Unknown indeed, and that is with a P. I wanted to say good morning, Kevin. It's a beautiful day today, and you wanted to you talked about so many issues the last couple of days, and I tried to get in yesterday, and I couldn't, and I apologize for that, but you know, about SCOTUS and Hammonds today, and
well, this is right up your alley.
Well,
the federal government and the Hammonds, yeah.
Yeah, I got to start by saying, and I hope the feds are listening really, really clearly. You know, the feds declared the war on liberty and used the ranchers being in the crosshairs. And if history is correct, they're actually going to come for us next. The interesting thing to see here is that although because of the hatred of President Trump and the defiance of the states, what I'm afraid of is the fact that because of the fact that we're such a hypocritical nation, we adhere to federal rulings like law and allow for the overreach, but somehow when that doesn't work, the states end up sort of operating the way they should be by nullifying things that are constitutional, which is kind of backwards. My point in saying all that without causing too much confusion is whether local law enforcement is going to be able to accept Trump's pardon and to be able to give these guys their life back. I think that they're beyond that. I'd like to be a little more hopeful, but what I know about government is not good. And they love to be able to spend more time, abusing their citizens than defending them against federal overreach, which is a sad state of affairs. So, they did declare war on that. They blamed Waco on extremists. You had Janet Napolitano come out and call us domestic terrorism, whether we believe in the Second Amendment or freedom of speech. This is our Constitution. This is the very form of government that people like me study. It has been stated to me that people like me know more about the rule of law than the people that took the oath. But yet we're labeled the terrorists. So I guess what I'm saying is that my biggest fear for the Bundys and the Hammonds and that kind of thing is, and I think it's in our best interest to be able to try to create a barrier between them and continual abuse that could be a backlash from Trump's, pardon. And the other thing I got to mention, though, real quick, Kevin, is that I'm passionate about this Convention of the States issue, and I would like to be able to go into that. But I got to mention this to you, and this directly relates to the Hammonds and the Bundys, which is why I feel like I can mention it. In our Constitution, the states already have the power to be able to put a check on the federal government. Okay? And the other part that I want to consider for these Convention of the States advocates is why they never talk about the conspiracy, for the global conspiracy. What do they think they're going to do with that? Now they're going to force adherence and rein in an out of control government. And while we already know that our wars have been controlled by both sides, they've controlled both parties, they've funded both sides of the war, and somehow the Convention of the States thinks somehow that we're going to rein in an out of control government with an ignorant populace. Most of us have no clue about the Constitution, and no more proof is needed when you have people that said that we need to appeal to the Supreme Court like they're a king. I believe that there was a case, Kevin, that said that, and one of the justices had said sometimes, the states have the power, sometimes they just need to exercise it. And so if we were to rein in an out of control government and apply term limits and pull everybody out, I'm going to ask you something, Kevin. Who the ignorant populace is going to put back in office? We're going to put back the same people that we had before. Because you know why? Because our founders believed that the people get the government they deserve. And that's really where it's at. And as far as the SCOTUS thing, I don't know if I have time to continue.
Oh, my gosh, Tom.
Hey, you laid it all out there, brother. I can stop if you want.
Well, how about we'll continue that tomorrow?
Anytime, man. I just appreciate being on.
We love you, Tom. Take care.
Hey, love you too, man. Thanks.
Our great friend, Tom Munns. Let's go to Eric in Boise on the Hammonds with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Hey, Kevin. I don't really have much to say. I'm not an expert like other people, but I just want to say it's absolutely asinine what's going on. A few years ago, we had this big uproar about black men being shot and killed by the cops. And I couldn't help but think to myself that these men put themselves in this position oftentimes. And they were looking for it sometimes. The fact of the matter is you can't take arms against our government and expect to get off scot-free. No matter what you think or what you believe, these guys were militias. So you can't take arms against the government. I can't believe that they just get off scot-free. That's all I got.
All right, Eric, thank you for that. Coming up, we'll respond to Eric, his thoughts on the Hammonds and the Bundys at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But is there a difference? I'd love to hear from you next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. Thank you for waking up with us. K. Millie in the morning. The president negotiating with NATO, negotiating with everything else, getting ready to take on Vladimir Putin. And you have people saying, well, the president is a bad president because he's sticking up for the United States of America. And we'll get to that in a minute. Let me address what Eric had to say when he's talking about taking up arms against the United States of America. That was a situation that happened in Bunkerville. That was a situation that you've had other people burn police stations, burn police cars. I don't know if they were ever prosecuted. The rule of law has to be upheld. On the other hand, when there's an abuse of power, who's going to stand up for the victims? You take a look, and you talk to people in Nevada, and they're split on the Bundy situation. We went down and covered Bunkerville as it happened. We went to Burns, covered that as it happened. I think the point being, and I would urge Eric to go watch that documentary. Eric, go see American Standoff. You'll see every side of things. But the Hammond situation, very different from Bunkerville. These guys are ranchers, they're farmers, and in this background, you have the federal government trying to bankrupt them by taking their land. And look, this is happening in Idaho. Now, we could not serve our community, and we could talk about the national issues, and I love talking about the national issues. But our mantle here is to from the very first broadcast in the Gem State, which was on this station, to today, we serve the community. We protect the family. And there are farmers, and there are ranchers, and perhaps the new governor, Brad Little, when he gets in, will continue the fight. And hopefully Butch Otter has done a lot. And if not, I know it goes against the grain here, and maybe it's not riding to the brand, especially with this president, getting more vocal about the inclusion. I get tongue-tied. My wife always makes fun of me because then when I get upset. But it's not being upset. It's about righting a wrong. It's about people not having a voice. And there are people in this Treasure Valley and in America, and you could say all over the world, but I'm on the home team, okay? I root for America. I root for Idaho. This is not an audition for somewhere else. This is it for me, to be here with you. And so when I see people like Farmer John, who has this shovel that I've got to get to the White House, who has, works his butt off, makes, handcrafts pianos, can play the piano. The people on the farm, people that are working in the heat. It's important that we're their voice. And then when you have the bureaucrats, and look, there's no bigger animal nut than me, but when it comes to, well, we've got to protect this species or that species, and I'm sorry because the larvae of the third-round insect is more important than the cattle, you can't use water rights, and there's no appeal, and we're going to bankrupt you out of appealing, then that needs to be challenged. And when you have the BLM putting up fences and such, look, I'm not here to vilify anyone. I'm just reporting the news. Then there should be an issue. When you have someone in their 70s that gets sentenced because of a slight oversight, and then you have a federal prosecutor appeal it because they have no empathy, no sympathy in their heart. You know, what's the difference between someone of compassion and someone without compassion? I've been accused of being both. I'm sure you have as well. Anybody ever cut you a break? Maybe not. But you think about the Hammonds being charged with the same crimes that Timothy McVeigh was charged with. You don't mess with the feds. You know, that's why you go back to the Bundys, Eric Parker, whomever else. You know, it's easy in our ADD society to go, no harm, no foul. They did it, whoopee. Yeah, you talk about putting it on the line. And look, we had to be careful because the feds were coming after everybody under Obama. These guys put it out there, and they were willing to do time and willing to be abused. And I go back to the Hammonds. Here you have this man, 76 years old. You're going to put him in prison for what? A slight oversight. His son, the same thing. And instead of respect, you may disagree with the president's decision to pardon, but instead you have this federal prosecutor, and we'll share his comments again, saying that they're criminals and they're serial arsonists. We all don't agree with each other, but we're all that we have. So I applaud President Trump for that. Look, taking arms against the government is not a good thing to do. We don't endorse that. On the other hand, you still have a right to protest. And you still have a right to say to whomever, this is not acceptable. My apologies. Our friend Sandy always says, why don't you get to traffic sooner? Let's do that. Traffic and weather together at KIDO Talk Radio.
Recovered.
And coming up next, why the NFL players are wrong again about loving America. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's find out what's happening. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
And let's roll along. Coming up, more of your phone calls. But first, Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio. Do I have something for you?
What do you got, man?
You're a hip guy, right?
Of course.
Have you seen the latest thing that's gone viral with the Norfolk Police Department?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you gotta Google it. I just put it up on
I'm doing it right now.
My Facebook. It is the best ever to start your day.
Oh, that's cool. What are they singing to?
Uptown Funk.
Okay, that's cool.
And they put a ton of work into it. It will make you smile.
Okay, that's cool. I really like that Taylor Swift redub by that one cop on the East Coast. That was good stuff.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. So anyway,
speaking of smiling, some people in California need to have a reason to smile, or do they?
Well, 100 people will in the city of Stockton. Randomly selected people, lucky people, going to get $500 no strings attached cash a month. It's called a universal income, and it's part of a pilot program in this city known as, or at least once known as, America's foreclosure capital, where 1 in 4 of its 300,000 residents live below the poverty line. So it's this pilot program. It's funded by I guess the top 1%, moguls in Silicon Valley. About $1 million or so that's going to be paying people $500 a month for 18 months beginning in 2019. They call it, possibly a way to reduce poverty, or, a chance to give people some sort of cushion financially that will help them. Though opponents are already coming out saying, look, this is ridiculous. They call it a silly idea to pay people not to work. And basically they also say that non-workers usually means non-growth, and so they're just kind of standing aside and watching this happen. But we've seen this happen before in several of the areas, whether it was government or private, private firm or private people, private funding. Finland recently had a program that did that, and they scrapped it last month.
California's an interesting place. You have one of the largest economies everywhere, but you have, I'm sure, Jeff, as you know, people just leaving the state in droves, a lot of them coming here.
Well, one of the reasons that Silicon Valley moguls believe that this is a good program is because they feel that this could, a universal income where people are paid just to basically do nothing. They believe somehow that it'll safeguard against job disruption that comes from automation, essentially, that would keep people in California. I'm not sure they're looking at the whole picture that you're referencing in terms of, taxes and overregulation and various different reasons why people leave. But that's one of their contentions that this, could possibly help out. But, usually when you pay people not to work, they don't.
Finally, Jeff Manasso, won't be long before our beloved football season starts again.
Yeah, did you hear the NFL Players Association now countering the whole national anthem policy?
Yeah,
they're look. I mean, people just want to watch football. Most people, I should say. I can't say all football fans, but that's generally what most football fans want to do. And here you go again. Now this fight, and so the NFL Players Association, if the NFL doesn't sit down with them and talk, then they're going to sue, claiming that it is the right of players to be able to sit or kneel.
Yeah.
During the national anthem. So here we go again.
With all due respect to the great NFL players, I think they're taking themselves way too seriously. The NBA, and you recall this when they had Mahmoud Al-Daroof or whatever, Chris Jackson, who was a great star from LSU, and then all of a sudden they said that you have to stand for the anthem. And the NBA is, one could argue, much more progressive than the NFL, at least its reputation. They've solved this issue years ago, and they're having a record amount of growth, a great run.
Well, it's one of the issues that Roger Goodell faces in terms of criticism, because he could have handled this right off the bat a year and a half ago, and he didn't. It took him a year and a half to handle it, to take care of it, which, either way, he was going to either win or lose, and I think he lost on this one as well, and which adds to the criticism on his performance. I can't tell you how many events that I've been at with him, or at least covering, where he was there, and whether it's players or whether it's just people or fans, he just constantly gets booed. So
maybe the owners like that though, because he catches the bullets.
I don't know.
They certainly gave him a pay raise.
What's that?
They gave him a pay raise.
Yeah, a huge pay raise. I don't know. I can just tell you that, for a franchise, for an owner in a franchise, and you see your stadium barely filled, you see lots of, dwindling ticket sales, you see, ratings plummeting, people are just tuning out. That's a real problem and a real threat to the NFL. And a lot of people are going to give you, multiple different reasons why, whether it was the 2016 election or whether it was, people, not subscribing to certain channels or cutting cable. I mean, the fact of the matter is people are just sick of this, and that's the truth. They're tired of watching football and having to be injected with politics, because that's usually what people do to get away from politics. They watch sports and they love it, and now it's almost impossible to get away from. It doesn't matter what side you're on. You just want to watch a football game, and you're being injected with policies and protests, and you can go anywhere for that, but it shouldn't happen to be sports.
Yes, you can.
Right?
Jeff Manasso, we appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
You too. Thanks, Kevin.
Our great friend Jeff Manasso. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio.
This is a huge victory not only for the Hammonds, but also for the Bundy family and cattle ranchers across the country. The occupation of the wildlife refuge in Oregon was initially aimed at preventing Dwight and Steve Hammond from having to go to federal prison for 2 arson convictions. But during the 41-day standoff, the father and son did turn themselves in. A statement from the White House reads, "The Hammonds are devoted family men, respected contributors to their community. Justice is overdue." Ammon Bundy, the son of Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy, led the occupation in Oregon. This is another stinging defeat for federal prosecutors who fought for and won that 5-year mandatory minimum sentence for a fire that burned 139 acres of federal land.
And that was our own Dan Springer reporting. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. So the president is doing his very best to stand up for America, talking to the NATO folks and saying, look, you guys need to start paying the freight. In other words, we're not going to continue to fund the defense of NATO, which has caused some folks in NATO to get a little testy.
Different views are normal among friends and allies. But I'm confident that we will agree on the fundamentals.
That's right, the fundamentals. Let's take a listen.
The estimates also show that we expect 8 allies to spend at least 2% of GDP on defense this year.
Right. So what's the harm? You need to start kicking in if you want to defend yourself. And President Trump actually had a very... I hate that, actually. President Trump made a great point. And his point was this. His point was concerning the Germans. And a lot of people aren't talking about the Germans since they got the boot from the World Cup, and we're going to be immune to World Cup propaganda, to soccer propaganda on this program. But on one hand, we're paying for the Germans' self-defense against Russia, and yet now they want to build an $11 million pipeline or $11 billion pipeline so they can start getting their energy from Russia. Doesn't that seem a little odd? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And the president is taking a beating on this, right? From everybody's, all the libs saying this is horrible, this is destructive. No, I don't think so. I think the president is doing the right thing, don't you? in standing up for America and saying, you got to start paying for your own defense. It's like getting a car and not making the payments, right? Isn't that what it's really become? More of your comments on Justice, soon-to-be Justice Kavanaugh, the Hammonds getting pardoned. We'll talk a little bit more about the NFL getting it wrong. And before Glenn Beck today, you want to get into this Eastern Idaho teacher pleading not guilty to feeding the puppy to the turtle. Then the poor turtle had to be killed. Now, is there any dispute? There was a puppy. We don't know whether it was alive or not. He's accused of feeding it to the snapping turtle. The puppy just didn't jump in there, did he? Are we going to use education as a reason for animal cruelty? Truthfully, I thought that he would have just pled out. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Pro-Life.
Yeah, Maggie O'Meara was he was reading the Hammond news, and the adjective was that they maliciously set fires. Now, that's the wrong adjective. That is not a news article. That's a commentary kind of thing. What the Hammonds did is set backfires to keep wildfires from destroying their property and BLM property. That's what they were doing. But because the federal government, the BLM, didn't like the Hammonds, they wanted to take more of their property and their grazing rights, then they take them to court over backfiring to prevent worse fires. And that's the whole situation. The federal government was totally crooked and wrong about it, and people need to see that. And so when she uses the word malicious, that is, you need to just totally disregard
if you have an issue with her, she'll take your phone call.
Okay, I'll call her.
I think you should call her, and
I don't know who writes that for her, but it was wrong.
I believe she writes that.
Well, hey.
I'm not in the news department. I'm in the talk department.
Yeah, I know.
But I would be, instead of, and again, your commentary is always welcome. If you have an issue with that, give her a call.
And also
1-800-Channel-7.
Yeah, I was out there at that refuge. And
I was out there at that refuge.
Yeah, I stayed 2 nights right there with him. And
wow.
We took very
I had a
good
guy
care.
who had a gun on me that said, you're going to have to go, but that's another issue.
Well,
we laugh about it now.
All those people, the occupiers, they cleaned, they swept, they did everything they could to take the very best care of those properties. And then when the BLM people came back, they said that there was millions of dollars worth of damage by the protesters. That is a damn lie.
Look, have you seen that movie, American Standoff?
No, I haven't seen it.
You can get it on YouTube for free. It is well worth the watch.
All right. Well, anyway, maybe God will help us save America, but we're going to have to do something to help him. We can't just pray about it. We're going to have to take some action. And
what are you talking about?
Well, we're going to have to reform. Well, first of all, we're going to have to always be truthful and tell the truth and not let people BS us. And then we're going to have to be, we don't have enough candidates. There's all kinds of offices right now that don't have any opposition.
One could say in the governor's race, somebody had too many candidates. You know what gets me?
Yeah.
Let me just air my grievances. I hear, and we cover politicians, and they're your best friend when they want something from you.
Right.
But we haven't heard nor hide nor hair of any of them. And remember, we had more people on than anybody else because we believe in that. But shouldn't public people, elected officials, both at the federal level and at the state level, make themselves available to the people? Now, I'm not talking about, let's ask the gardener. I'm talking about issues. And maybe I just need to be more charming. Maybe it's me. But don't you find that odd that, hey, I'm Willie, I'm Billy, and we're going to do, and then once they get what they want, we'll see you in 4 years.
No, it's because
it's kind of odd.
No, it isn't, because politicians, their motive is selfishness. They want the position, and
You're a little negative today.
Yeah, I need to be.
I don't know about that. I don't know if negativity sells in the morning.
Well, whatever's true. I mean,
They always travel in pairs, the Sith.
Well,
Got to run, Pro-Life. Love you.
all
God
right,
bless.
see ya. Bye.
You didn't even give me the God bless back. All right. Coming up next, President Trump fights back for America. Is it a good thing for international relations? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And by the way, if you get a chance, you can take a look at our Facebook page, Kevin Miller Show, KIDO Talk Radio. I've got this video that is just the best ever of the Norfolk Police Department. You need to watch it if you're having a bad day. It really will brighten your day. At Kevin Miller on Facebook, at Twitter, Kevin Miller Show, and Instagram, Kevin Miller Show. Would love to interact with you off the air as well as on the air. And let's go to an update from Caldwell. Holly joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Holly.
Hey, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Hammond situation, and I kind of agree. I'm not a fan of how Maggie wrote that up. I think that there's not just her, but the Today Show and a lot of other places trying to use the da-da-da music and make it out like they were federal terrorists. And the whole problem is the Hammonds were never charged
Boy,
with
that's a reach after just one word.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like I said, and look, we're all about people expressing themselves. It puts me in an uncomfortable situation. But if you have an issue, you contact her. That's how I would handle it.
Yeah. I'm not really talking about her, but we heard it on the Today Show and other places too. And unfortunately, the Hammonds went to jail.
Shame on you for watching the Today Show.
I actually haven't heard. I talked to my mother, who my family's
So
from
now
her,
you've got
and
it
they're gonna
from. Now wait a minute, you've got it secondhand. Now,
my
Holly,
parents know the Hammonds. They're going down to greet them.
now
this
wait a
morning
minute,
when
but
they
you
fly
have,
in.
but you haven't watched it personally. Now you know that's inadmissible in court.
Well, I'm not talking about court, but we all know how the media works, and I think you would agree, Kevin, about the mainstream media. So,
I surrender. I surrender.
So the real meat and potatoes is the Hammonds had already served a sentence. They had got them to waive their right to appeal. Then the government came back and hit them
Holly,
with a civil suit.
Holly,
yes.
Can you hang on? I don't want to be accused of cutting you off. Can you hang on for a minute?
Accused? You just did it 3 times, Stu.
I know, but there's a thing called traffic that's coming.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, you're going to go into traffic and let me tell you the rest of it?
That's what I was trying to say, yes. I
That'd be
failed.
awesome.
I failed you once again.
Okay.
Okay, hang on, please.
Okay.
Good morning, Dave.